Hello, passengers, co-pilots, shotgun callers, blunderbuss bellowers, and midnight riders. Welcome to another episode of Full Moon Empty Road. As always, I'm Jeremy, and I'll be your driver tonight. Hope everybody had a great week, and I hope you're ready for another trip. We're headed across the pond again to England. Our destination is Enfield, London, home of the infamous, alleged Enfield Poltergeist. So let's take to the skies. We have work to do. So how's everyone doing today? Enjoying your flight? So this is another topic I've wanted to cover for a while. I have a short story coming up this week titled Enfield, but it's a story based in the U.S., but I figured it'd be a nice 1-2 punch. It'll even feature a guest narrator and voice actor. And before we land, I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everyone for checking out today's episode. If you'd like, you can follow me on social media. You can find me at the following places. That is FMER Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, Full Moon Empty RD on Twitter, and Full Moon Empty Road on TikTok. If you'd like to support the podcast, listener support is on Spotify and Spotify for Podcasters. You can also head over to Bonfire and pick up a t-shirt, or you can buy me a coffee. All links are in the About section on YouTube. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Well, looks like we're getting ready to land, so let's see if we can't go stir up some paranormal activity. So come on, let's go see Enfield. Well, here we are. 284 Green Street, a council house in Brimsdown, Enfield, London, England, United Kingdom. And from 1977 to 1979, alleged paranormal activity haunted the Hodgson family, specifically sisters Janet, age 11, and Margaret, age 13. In August of 1977, single-parent Peggy Hodgson called the Metropolitan Police to her rented home at 284 Green Street in Enfield, London, claiming she had witnessed furniture moving and that 2 of her 4 children had heard knocking sounds on the walls. A PC, or police constable, reported witnessing a chair wobble and slide, but could not determine the cause of the movement. Later claims included disembodied voices, loud noises, thrown toys, overturned chairs, and children levitating. Now, the part about the police constable, when I did my research on this, for some reason it had to point out that it was a female police constable. I don't know why that mattered, but I was like, I'm not. I mean, yeah, it was a female police officer, but I don't know why that absolutely needed to be pointed out in the research. Like, oh, it was I don't know if they were saying, well, this was clearly a crazy lady or something. I don't know, but anywho, in terms of police constables, I personally think they could have used Police Sergeant Nicholas Angel on the case. He definitely would have had the whole mess sorted out in a matter of days. If you don't know who Police Sergeant Nicholas Angel is, go check out the movie Hot Fuzz. Over a period of 18 months, more than 30 people, including the Hodgson's neighbors, paranormal investigators, and journalists, said they variously saw heavy furniture moving on its own accord, objects being thrown across a room, and the sisters seeming to levitate several feet off the ground. Many also heard and recorded knocking noises and a gruff voice. The story was regularly covered in the Daily Mirror newspaper until reports came to an end in 1979. The Society for Psychical Research, generally abbreviated as SPR, investigated these claims. Its members Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair reported curious whistling and barking noises coming from Janet's general direction. Although Playfair maintained the paranormal activity was genuine and wrote in his later book This House is Haunted, the true story of a poltergeist, that was written in 1980, he believed that an entity was to blame for the Enfield disturbances. He often doubted the children's veracity and wondered if they were playing tricks and exaggerating. Still, Gross and Playfair believed that even though some of the alleged poltergeist activity was faked by the girls, other incidents were genuine. So a little bit of half and half here. Other paranormal investigators who studied the case included American demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, who visited the Enfield house in 1978 and were convinced that the events had a supernatural explanation. At one point, Janet pretty much got caught trying to deceive everybody and whatnot. There was a video camera in an adjoining room that caught her bending spoons and attempting to bend an iron bar. Gross had observed Janet banging a broom handle on the ceiling and hiding his tape recorder. According to Playfair, one of Janet's voices, who she called Bill, displayed a habit of suddenly changing the topic. And this was a habit Janet also had. When Janet and Margaret admitted pranking to journalists, Gross and Playfair compelled the girls to retract their confessions. The two men were mocked by other researchers for being easily duped. Psychical researcher Renee Hayes noted that doubts were raised about the alleged poltergeist voice at the SPR conference at Cambridge in 1978, where video cassettes from Enfield were examined. SPR investigator Anita Gregory stated that the Enfield case had been overrated, characterizing several episodes of the girls' behaviors as suspicious, and speculated that the girls had staged some incidents for the benefit of journalists seeking a sensational story. John Beloff, a former president of the SPR, investigated and suggested Janet was practicing ventriloquism. Both Beloff and Gregory came to the conclusion that Janet and Margaret were playing tricks on the investigators. Another investigation was done by Milbourne Christopher, an American stage magician, not musician. Briefly investigated the Enfield occurrences and failed to observe anything that could be called paranormal. He was dismayed by what he felt was suspicious activity on the part of Janet, later concluding that the poltergeist was nothing more than the antics of a little girl who wanted to cause trouble and who was very, very clever. Ventriloquist Ray Allen visited the house and concluded that Janet's male voices were simply vocal tricks. There has been plenty of skepticism regarding this case. Now, personally, seeing the photos and whatnot, this definitely looks staged. In fact, skeptic Joe Nickel of the U.S.-based Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, examined the findings of paranormal investigators and criticized them for being overly credulous when a supposedly disembodied demonic voice was heard. Playfair noted that, as always, Janet's lips hardly seemed to be moving. He goes on to state that a remote-controlled still camera, and the photographer was not present in the room with the girls, time to take a picture every 15 seconds was shown by investigator Melvin Harris to reveal pranking by the girls. He argued that the photo allegedly depicting Janet levitating actually shows her bouncing off the bed as if it were a trampoline. Harris called the photos examples of common gymnastics and said it's worth remembering that Janet was a school sports champion. Nickel pointed out that a tape recorder malfunction that Gross attributed to supernatural activity, and which SPR President David Fontana described as an occurrence which appeared to defy the laws of mechanics, was a peculiar threading jam occurring with older model reel-to-reel tape recorders. He also said that Ed Warren was notorious for exaggerating and even making up incidents in such cases, often transforming a haunting case into one of demonic possession. In 2015, Deborah Hyde commented that there was no solid evidence for the Enfield poltergeist. The first thing to note is that the occurrences didn't happen under controlled circumstances. People frequently see what they expect to see, their senses being organized and shaped by their prior experiences and beliefs. Skeptics have argued that the alleged poltergeist voice that originated from Janet was produced by false vocal cords above the larynx and had the phraseology and vocabulary of a child. Now, Bill, if I remember correctly in the movie, was said to be 60-something, 70-something years old, I think. So if this was a haunting, I don't see him using the vocabulary of a child. In a television interview for BBC Scotland, Janet was observed to gain attention by waving her hand and then putting her hand in front of her mouth while a claimed disembodied voice was heard. During the interview, both girls were asked the question, "How does it feel to be haunted by a poltergeist?" Janet replied, "It's not haunted," and Margaret, in a hushed tone, interrupted, "Shut up." These factors have been regarded by skeptics as evidence against the case. As a magician experienced in the dynamics of trickery, Nichol examined Playfair's account as well as contemporary press clippings. He noted that the supposed poltergeist tended to act only when it was not being watched, and concluded that the incidents were best explained as children's pranks. Although Gross made tape recordings of Janet and believed no trickery was involved, the magician Bob Cootie said he made some of the recordings available to me, and having listened to them very carefully, I came to the conclusion that there was nothing in what I had heard that was beyond the capabilities of an imaginative teenager. All of the recordings have been cataloged and digitalized by the SPR, and a book of their content, the Enfield Poltergeist tapes, White Crow, was produced by Dr. Melvin Willen in 2019. A 2016 article by psychology professor Chris French in Time Out magazine described 5 reasons why he believed the case to have been a hoax. And his reasons are as follows. The 2 sisters involved admitted hoaxing some of the activity. The photo of Janet levitating above her bed could just as easily be explained as Janet jumping. The spirit of an old man who supposedly possessed Janet took a great deal of interest in menstruation. Eyewitnesses are notoriously unreliable. Other schoolgirl pranks before and after have gotten out of hand. The story attracted press coverage in British newspapers, has been mentioned in books, featured in television and radio documentaries, and dramatized in the 2016 horror film The Conjuring 2. Now, me personally, I love the Conjuring films. I'm not a huge fan of Ed and Lorraine Warren from a paranormal investigation standpoint, but I can't deny that I enjoy the movies. And again, I have a hard time believing all of the outlandish claims made by the girls during this ordeal. And having seen the photos, well, I'll not deny that it looks like a bunch of crap, just outright. But I wasn't there, so I can't truly say one way or the other on the truth of the matter. Either way, it's definitely been an interesting case, and it's always been an interesting case. But at the same time, it just kind of seems like it was a bunch of kids, a couple of kids playing tricks for, fame, or, as it said, a sensational story. Anywho, that is all I've got on the Enfield haunting. I appreciate everybody stopping in today. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and I've worked on trying to add some pictures to this one to kind of show different points of the haunting. So, again, hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks again for showing up. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can get a hold of me on social media. Again, that is FMER Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, Full Moon Empty RD on Twitter, and Full Moon Empty Road on TikTok. If you have a story of your own to tell, or if you'd like to suggest a location, or if you'd like to suggest a short story like I upload during the week, you can reach out to me at fullmoonemptyroad@gmail.com. So, thanks again for taking this trip with me today. Hope everybody had a good time, and let's go home.